It's estimated by the National Autistic Society that 1.1% of the UK population is autistic. I personally believe that it's a lot higher, and we're seeing lots of different stats around that. I've seen one from the US, which is that it's 1 in 36. I actually believe it could be as high as 1 in 10. And I think a lot of people go undiagnosed the majority of their life. And actually, we know that there's an overrepresentation in diagnostic stats for white males. So you're much more likely to be diagnosed autistic if you're a man or a boy, and if you're white. So it's really interesting to think about that. So a lot of women I've worked with that have been diagnosed autistic as adults would say when they were younger, they would mask their autistic traits. If you've been socialized as a girl in the UK, you may be expected to act in a certain way. And when you start school, you might realize that your personality means people are treating you differently. So lots of young autistic girls are masking their true personality and perhaps sometimes even mimicking another girl in the class that they're seeing as more popular. This masking has a terrible emotional drain on people. Imagine acting like somebody else the whole time. And actually, it leads to a lot of teenage autistic girls still undiagnosed autistic, but being diagnosed with other like neurotypes or other conditions such as borderline personality disorder and things like that, where it's still autism hasn't been identified. When I worked at the National Autistic Society, any young man that we worked with, often their first diagnosis would be autism, the primary diagnosis. A lot of the women we worked with, they may have been diagnosed with 10 other things until autism was looked at because society just, there seems to be a big reluctance in diagnosing women with autism. And if you're a young white boy at school and you're undiagnosed autistic and you're acting in a certain way, you might not have been socialized in the same way girls have. So you may be a little bit more external with your behavior. And then that can sometimes lead to a diagnosis of autism. Whereas if you're a young black boy and you're undiagnosed autistic and you act in a certain way, that just might lead to you being expelled from school. So I could probably do my whole presentation on this topic. I think the most important thing as colleagues is that you understand you will be working with autistic people, some diagnosed, some not. Some people might be masking, but it's certainly higher than 1.1%. And I think it's just important to recognize the autistic neurotype will be in your workplace